ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य-देशतारिणे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दं माधवम्। Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you so much. So we are studying from Sri Brahma-saṁhitā. So let me share my screen. So last week we read few verses where after the creation, or how the material elements were first initially in the beginning, they were not mixed, they were separate. And then by Mahavishnu, through his chit potency or the spiritual potency, moved Maya, and then they were combined together. And at that time also but even though he is doing this, he is still in the background, and he himself is actually in the yoga nidra, which is the potency of his spiritual potency. He is associating with her. He is not directly in contact with the Maya Devi or material energy. And then when the universes, with this combination of the elements, unlimited number of mundane universes are created, and then he entered into every universe as well as every atom in the universe. It says that pravesha swayam guham pravishte tasmai. And then at that time, when the universes are ready and the material elements are mixed, at that time the living entities who are in the dormant form, or in the dormant state from the previous annihilation, they were awakened. Now, in the next verse, we read about the nature of the living entities. Though all those living entities are, it said, sa-nitya, nitya sambandha. They are all eternal, and they also have eternal sambandha, nitya sambandha, or eternal relationship with Krishna, and that is of the master and servant. The Krishna, or the Vishnu Tattva, Mahavishnu, is the Supreme Lord, and the living entities are his eternal uh, servitors. But they are also his Prakriti, they are also his potency, but they are spiritual potency. Para evasa, they are the spiritual potency. And then the last verse we read last week was, all these living entities who are in the universe, they are in the 14 different planetary systems. They are all spiritually connected. They have a spiritual tie with Garbhodakashayi Vishnu through the lotus, through the stem of lotus that has uh, come from the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And on top of that lotus is the origin of the four-faced Brahma, who is conversant with the four Vedas, Chaturvedi, Chaturmukham. So that's what we had finished last week. Now we are going to continue text 23 today, where it says, sañjāto bhagavac-chaktyā tat-kālaṁ kila coditaḥ sisṛkṣāyāṁ matiṁ cakre pūrva-saṁskāra-saṁskṛtaḥ dadarśa kevalaṁ dhvāntaṁ nānyat kim api sarvataḥ. So on coming out of the lotus, Brahma, being guided by divine potency, turned his mind to the act of creation under the impulse of previous impressions. But he could not see anything. He could see nothing but darkness in all the directions. So sañjāto bhagavac-chaktyā, sañjāto, the Brahmaji on that lotus, what we read in the previous verse, on the top of that stem, there was a golden lotus, and on that Brahmaji was born. How? By the divine potency of Bhagavan or Mahavishnu. And as soon as he was born, tat-kālaṁ kila coditaḥ, he immediately engaged in certain activities of what? Sisṛkṣāyāṁ matiṁ cakre, of creation, because his nature, he was created for the creation of this whole universe. And so he engaged his mind how he can work on creation. And why did he do so? pūrva-saṁskāra-saṁskṛtaḥ, because of his previous impressions on his mind. So that shows that how every living entity, Brahma is also Jivatma, so every living entity is born with his previous impressions or previous karma, what he has accumulated, and those impressions is where he continues in his current birth. So in the same manner, when Brahmaji appeared on that, or was created on that lotus, he also had pūrva-saṁskāra-saṁskṛtaḥ. He under the impulse of the previous impressions, he thought about creation. But even in that thought, when he started to act, dadarśa kevalaṁ dhvāntaṁ, he could see only darkness, dhvāntaṁ, on all the sides. Nānyat kimapi sarvataḥ, in all the directions, sarvataḥ, he could see only darkness and he could not see anything. So in the purport, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvatī Thakur writes, makes a point of this, that Brahma's impulse for creation arises solely from his previous impressions. So all the living entities, whichever way they are created, they are all carrying their previous impressions. As Krishna says, Ichchā dvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata sarge yanti parantapa. That because of the desires, original desires and the enviousness, all the living entities are created, and they are always carrying their previous impressions, and that's where they continue. As he also says, Krishna in the Bhagavad-gītā, Purusha prakritisto hi bhunkte prakritijan gunan karanam guna sangasya sad asad yoni janmasu. That all these living entities, they are born, they acquire certain type of qualities or the mix of gunas. How? Why? Because associating, karanam guna sanga asya, because they are associating with certain type of gunas in their previous lives, and that's how they have created some impressions of those gunas, and that's why they are born into sad asad yoni janmas. They take birth into certain kind of living entity with those impressions. So all the jivas get their natural conformably to their impressions of previous births, and according to their activity can have a beginning. It is called the unseen, or the result of the previous states. So why it is unseen? Because externally we don't see why the person may be acting in certain way. Why? Where? Because as the person is growing, as the child is growing, we see that he is, because of the environment where he is born, because of the society where he is growing, because of the family he is born into, he is developing certain nature, but he is already born with something that he is carrying for, and that's why it is referred here as unseen. Because from our material perspective, we cannot see why he has those qualities, and that's what it is called as. They are coming from his previous impressions, or the word here used is pūrva-saṁskāra-saṁskṛtaḥ. Then he further says that his natural impulse is formed according to the nature of deeds done by him in the previous kalpa. So even for Brahmaji, that natural impulse is there because he is engaged in the creation all the time, and that is also the purpose why he is there, right? According to the plan of Krishna. So some of the jivas are also eligible jivas also attend the office of Brahma in this way. And so Brahmaji, being a jivatma, when a jiva, any living entity, when he is qualified to be a Brahma, he can take up this post and then he can work as Brahma in this universe. So this couple of verses I was looking where in the 8th canto, actually, in the 3rd canto, 8th chapter, when Maitreya Muni is describing Brahma's appearance to Vidura, so this similar kind of verses come. So those are very relevant and they're very interesting in this connection. So I was thinking we could read those. So from the 13th verse, when he explains how he is going to give the narration of Bhagavatam, which is coming from the Guru Shishya Parampara. So how he explains first, and then he explains about how Garbhodaksha Vishnu is lying in the ocean of in the universe, Garbhodaka ocean, and then how Brahmaji appears. So he says that the subtle subject matter for creation on which the Lord's attention was fixed was agitated by the material mode of passion. So for creation, mode of passion is required. And with that, it was agitated, and from there, thus the subtle form of creation pierced through his abdomen. That's where the lotus was sprouted from his navel or abdomen. Now, piercing through this, the sum total form, thus fruitive activities of the living entities took a shape of a bud of that lotus flower, and that flower was generated from the Supreme Personality of Vishnu. And by his supreme will, it illuminated everything like the sun. And that dried up the vast ocean of devastation. Before that, there was an ocean of devastation. And then into that universal lotus flower, Lord Vishnu personally entered as the super soul. And when it was thus impregnated with the modes of material nature, the personality of Vedic wisdom, who we call as self-war, or we call as Swayambhu, and that is Brahma, was generated. Brahma, born out of this lotus flower, could not see the world. So the same thing what we read in the Brahma-saṁhitā, although he was situated in the world, and he therefore circumambulated all the space, and then while moving his eyes in all directions, he achieved 4 heads in terms of 4 directions. So how he achieved the 4 heads, that Maitreya is explaining here. And then Lord Brahma, situated in the lotus, could not perfectly understand the creation and the lotus himself. And at the end of millennium, the air of devastation began to move the water in the great circular waves. So there was again huge waves there in the ocean of the universe, Garbhodaka ocean. And because Lord Brahmaji, in his ignorance, he thought about himself. Who am I? And where did I come from? What am I doing on this lotus? And that's where he went to, even up to the end of the stem of the lotus, but he could not find anything. And thus he was contemplating, he entered the lotus, but in spite of lots of effort, he could not find anything. And that's where, thus he was being unable to achieve the desired destination. He retired eventually from the searching. And then, thus the controlling objective, he concentrated his mind on the Supreme Lord. Then he did the meditation and he heard the word tapa, actually that comes in the 2nd canto, where Lord Mahavishnu or Vishnu instructs him through his heart the words tapa. That's the 16th and the 21st syllable of the Vargiya Vyanjana or consonants of the Sanskrit language. And then he engages in the creation. So that's what is kind of related. It goes on further, how he prayed to Lord, and then he was able to see the Lord himself, and then there is a glorification of the Lord, what he saw there. So that's what is mentioned. So this is what the purport of this verse is, how Brahmaji was created, and with his previous impressions, he immediately thought about the creation. Now in the next verse, actually, there are certain impressions what I was thinking about, how everyone is born of his own impressions. So in the Bhagavad Gita also, in the 16th chapter, 5th verse, when Krishna is explaining about the divine and the demonic qualities of the living entities, the Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga. So Krishna tells Arjuna that Ma Shucha Sampadam Daivim Abhijatosi Pandava. Do not fear, Arjuna, you are born with the divine qualities. So he is how he's carrying the qualities from his previous impressions, that even here he mentions. And also in the 18th chapter, he mentions that if you, because Arjuna is denying to fight, seeing his all relatives standing in front of him on the battlefield, but Krishna is instructing him and giving him the knowledge. But even though he says that even if you do not want to fight, if you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. And here it says, by your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare, because you are born with that nature. You are born as a kshatriya. You are born with that nature. So those impressions are with you, and that's how you have developed those qualities. So there are a few more verses, but these are the few verses I thought of when we read about how a jiva is born with certain qualities which he has from his previous births or previous lives. And the same thing is given for Brahmaji also here, that he started, or his mind had inclination towards creation because he had previous impressions on his mind. So after Brahmaji was born, in the next verse, let's see, uvāca puratas tasmai tasya divyā Sarasvatī kāma-kṛṣṇāya govinda he gopī-jana ityapi vallabhāya priyā vahner mantram te dāsyati priyam. So while Brahmaji was contemplating, let's read the translation. The goddess of learning Sarasvatī, the divine consort of Supreme Lord, said thus to Brahma, who saw nothing but gloom in all directions. So she said, O Brahma, this mantra, that is Kṛṣṇāya Govindāya gopī-jana-vallabhāya Swaha, will assuredly fulfill your heart's desire. So when Brahmaji was searching like this, so he was actually initiated by this Gayatri mantra, Kama Bija Gayatri mantra, through the divine Sarasvatī by Mahavishnu. Uvāca puratas tasmai tasya divyā Sarasvatī. So Divya, divine Sarasvatī, which is also energy of Krishna, she is the one who told Brahmaji that, and she gave Kama Bija mantra that starts with Klim and Kṛṣṇāya Govindāya gopī-jana-vallabhāya Swaha. So here, when we are offering something in the fire, or we are doing some sacrifice, or when we are chanting mantra, so one thing it was interesting, it said Swaha is mentioned as priyā vahner. Vahner is Agni or fire, and priyā is wife of fire. So Swaha is actually wife of fire. And when we are offering something in the yajna, fire sacrifice, we always chant the name, whatever we are offering, we take that and to whomever we are offering to, with that deity's name, we in the end with Swaha. So the interesting thing I thought about that is, even for Agni, when we are offering, we go through his priyā, wife, we offer it as Swaha, every offering we do. And the same thing here in the Kama Gayatri mantra, or is also mentioned here, Klim Kṛṣṇāya Govindāya gopī-jana-vallabhāya Swaha. So we invoke Agni through his consort Swaha. And then by this mantra, so this mantra, as we will read also mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, is not any ordinary mantra. And by chanting this mantra, Sarasvatī gave him assurance, Brahmaji assurance, that it will fulfill your heart's desire. Mantram te dāsyati priyam. So it will give you whatever you are desiring for. And Brahmaji was desiring for creation. So that's what he was looking for. So in the purport, it says, the mantra consisting of 18 divine letters prefixed by the kāma-bija mantra, that is klim, is alone super excellent. This is not any ordinary mantra. It has a twofold aspect. One aspect so one is spiritual and one is material. So the spiritual aspect, one aspect is that it tends to make the pure soul run after all attractive Shri Krishna, the Lord of Gokula. That's what we started in the beginning of knowing, in the beginning of Brahma-saṁhitā, learning about Lord of Gokula who resides in the spiritual kingdom at Goloka Vrindavan. And he is not alone there, and the divine milkmaids, the gopis, who are his eternal consorts. This is the acme of the spiritual tendency of the jiva. This is the pinnacle. This is the highest goal of any jiva for his spiritual tendency, for his spiritual path. And when the devotee is free from all sorts of mundane desires and willing to serve the Lord, he attains the fruition of this heart's desire. So this is the goal he attains when he is free from all mundane desires and he is willing to serve the Lord. That is his natural position, being servant of the Supreme Lord. But otherwise, even if he has some material desire, but in case of the devotee who has not of unmixed attitude, this super excellent mantra fulfills his desire also. So he fulfills his material desire also if he has any material desire. The transcendental kāma-bija is inherent in the divine logos located in Goloka. And this kāma-bija, pervertedly reflected in the worldly affairs, satisfies all sorts of desires of this mundane world. So kāma-bija, when chanted with material desire, it is called here as kāma-bija, pervertedly reflected than what it is in the spiritual world. And that also fulfills the worldly affairs or the desires, everything anybody has, when he receives this Kama Gayatri mantra through proper channel or through a spiritual master, through authority. So just like in the Bhagavatam, we read this verse, akamo sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. That it doesn't matter if one does not have a desire, a kama, or one has all sorts of desire, he is sarva kama, or one may be desirous of liberation, moksha kama udaradi. But udaradi, one who is broad-minded, what does he do, or what should he do? Tivrena, with very determination, with staunch determination, tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. He should engage in the service of Lord Shri Krishna, who is a Parama Purush. The same is the result of this Kama Gayatri mantra or Kama Bija, which starts with Klim as. And this is the glory of this is also mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya in the purport. I found this. So here actually I go to the mantra directly actually. So here in the purport, it is written, Prabhupada write, Kama Gayatri mantra rupa haya Krishnera swarupa. So this mantra, Kama Gayatri, is none other than Krishna. It is swarupa of Krishna. Sarda Chabbisa Akshara Tarahaya. And this is of 26.5 letters. Se Akshara Chandrahaya Krishna Kari Udaya Trai Jagata Kaila Kamamaya. And then this Akshara, so let's read this translation. This Krishna is aroused in our heart, the love for Krishna, and this whole world, Trai Jagat, three words is made kāma-maya, or desires of that. That kāma could be a desire for Krishna or a desire for mundane desire. So here it is very beautifully explained. The Kāma-Gayatri mantra is just like Vedic hymn, but it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. There is no difference between the Kāma-Gayatri and Krishna. It is same as Krishna. Both are composed of 24 and a half syllables, transcendental syllables. This is also actually, this mantra is comes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also. This mantra depicted in letters is also Krishna, and the mantra rises just like the moon. Like say Akshara Chandra hoy. Due to this, there is perverted reflection of desire in human society and among all kinds of living entities. In the mantra, Klim Kamadevaya Vidmahe Pushpa Banaya Dhimahi Tanno Ananga Prachodayat. Krishna is called Kamadev. So there is the other Kama mantra. So first we read that Krishnaya Govindaya Gopī-jana-vallabhāya Swaha. And here the second part is Krishna is mentioned as, called as Kamadeva, Pushpabana and Ananga, with these three names. So Kamadeva is also Madana Mohan. So Kamadeva, or he is also called Cupid, who is attracting everyone, is the deity who establishes our relationship with Krishna. Pushpabana is one who carries the arrow of flowers. So if you see Madan, he is always carrying with the arrow of flowers so that it can pierce somebody's heart and arouse love for someone in their heart. Here it is aroused for Krishna. And Govinda is personally the Godhead who accepts the devotional service. And Ananga is the gopī-jana-vallabhāya, who satisfies the gopis. So Ananga is the lover of the gopis, is the ultimate goal of life. So this is the mantra. It simply does not belong to this material world. And when one is advanced in spiritual understanding, when he calls this, he will be spiritually purified. So it doesn't matter if we have material, somebody is having some material desire, his desires are satisfied, as well as he makes spiritual progress by chanting this mantra when received from proper channel. And then the last verse I was going to read today is straightforward. Basically, it says, then Sarasvatī further tells him, tapastvam tapa etena tava siddhir bhavishyati. So tapastvam tapa etena, when you perform this austerity, practice this austerity, tava siddhir bhavishyati, you will be successful. In your future, you will get what you desire for. So, O Brahma, do thou practice spiritual association by means of this mantra that Sarasvatī gave to him, the Kama Bija Gayatri mantra, and then all your desires will be fulfilled. So that is also the purport what we saw in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where he started doing austerity for the purpose when he was looking for the goal of his life. Brahmaji saw this and he was given that instruction. And even in the 9th chapter of the 10th canto, actually, he says that Lord Brahma, while thus engaged in thinking in the water, Brahmaji heard twice the nearby two syllables joined together, that is ta and pa. And that's how he engaged in the austerity. And then that's how he achieved the goal, what he was looking for, and got the intelligence for creation, got the knowledge what he needed for creation. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvatī clearly says here, the purport is clear, that he will be successful when he does this austerity by following the instruction by Sarasvatī and chants this Gayatri mantra and meditates on it. So I will stop there and we can take some reflections or questions. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Radharajan Prabhu.
Radharajan Prabhu, since today we're discussing the Kāma-Gayatri, so that reminded me of the beautiful pastime of Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, in relationship with this Kāma-Gayatri mantra. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explained that this Kama Gayatri mantra, is actually composed of 24.5 syllables. Okay. So Vishnu Thakur, when he was, reading this Gayatri mantra, and he was trying to figure out, because if you read this whole Gayatri mantra, it's very difficult to figure out which is actually half letter. Looks like 25 letters. But Vishnu Thakur says, Krishna Kaviraj Goswami says 24.5 moons. So actually mantra is not different from Krishna, and Krishna has 24.5 moons in his personality. So Vishnu Thakur was not able to find out which letter is actually half a letter in this. Klim kāma-kṛṣṇāya vidmahe puṣpa-vāṇāya dhīmahi tanno nanga prachodayāt. Okay, so if you take each and every letter, it's be total 25 in order. But one of the letter has to be pronounced as half letter. That means not be full. Like say ka is a full letter, but if say ka is a half letter. So which letter will be read as half? He was not able to figure out. And he tried to analyze from different angles. Some people suggested that probably this is the one, this is the one. But nothing fit according to grammatical rules. It was making Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami as, faulty presentation. And he knew Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami cannot be faulty in his presentation. Vaishnava acharyas cannot have any fault in their presentation. So he was so convinced of that, there was no question of accepting anything. But it says Radharani actually came in the dream and revealed to Vishnu Thakur which letter was actually half a letter. And Radharani actually quoted from books. She said, you can refer this book. This will actually make it very clear. So Radharani did not reveal which letter it is. She said, if you go and refer this book, you'll be able to find which letter is half a letter. So he actually went, I think that was the book's name that Radharani says was, I think, Varna-gama, something like the Varna-gama Bhasvat, some book like that. So he actually went and referred the book, and he actually found out that way, that letter, the way comes before that, the year that comes, that is actually the half a letter. So when we say Klim Kāma-deva vidmahe, so Kāma-deva, year is actually half a letter. So it's supposed to be pronounced as Klim Kāma-deva vidmahe puṣpa-vāṇāya dhīmahi. So year is supposed to be half a letter.
Okay.
It's a beautiful pastime actually in Vishnu Thakur's life. So since we were discussing today,
thank you so much for sharing that. That is very sweet. Yeah, it's very nice.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, very nice.
Thank you very much.
Until we understand this Gayatri mantra, we will not be able to chant properly. So especially this is actually there in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, I think 21st chapter.
25th. I have that open actually. I had that also open, but because of the time constraint, I did not share. Let me.
Yeah. In that chapter, Vishnu Thakur explains actually that that Krishna is actually 24.5 moons. So there's actually one particular verse where he says Kāma-kṛṣṇāya mantra rupa.
Yeah, that's what I referred. Actually, hold on.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen again.
So when because you were reading that verse, so it reminded me that past time.
Yeah, I was reading.
That was the verse.
I did not go directly to that verse, but I went to the purport where it is quoted, because in the verse there is no purport. So here, Sardha Chobisa.
Yeah.
And this is verse in Madhya. Yeah, this is what I read.
Yeah. So 125, yeah, that is the one. So I think, and there's explanation also, I think 126 verse onwards, 126 to 128, those 3 verses, he actually gives explanation of these 24.5 moons. Yeah.
So this one.
Yeah, that's the one. So the 24.5 moons are described of Krishna. So this Kāma-Gayatri mantra is actually consisting of all these 24.5 moons. It's actually a very beautiful meditation. We can, when we chant next time Gayatri Mantra, we can actually meditate on these 24.5 moons. Each level is actually representing a moon.
Oh, that's very beautiful, Prabhu. And yeah, there are some references. I shared only a couple of them, but there were some very nice, beautiful pastimes.
Really. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Oh, thank you so much,
Prabhuji,
Prabhu, for
what
sharing
were the
that.
verse numbers? What were the verse numbers for the explanation of the?
I think 125 to 129.
Madhya
Right?
25, chapter 21, and verse 125 to 129.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
CC Madhya 21, 125 to 129.
Another point, Prabhu, what I was thinking that is how important is this to chant the Gayatri Mantra regularly. It is, when we were given this mantra, it is just, it's just been given, but nobody, at that point never understood what is the real importance of the mantra we are chanting. We are chanting, but you don't know what is the importance. So
actually, this mantra can fulfill all the innermost desires. If you cultivate material desires, you fulfill material desires also.
Yeah.
But Vaishnavas, they use this particular mantra to fulfill their innermost spiritual desires. Don't use it for material desires. You'll be implicated more and more. Yeah.
Actually, Bhakti Vinod Thakur mentions this in one of the purports as Swarupagata and Vastugata. So Swarupagata is basically one who is still attached to material desires. So he will also get, but that is, he is chanting this mantra as a Swarupagata. And Vastugata is one who is actually in the status where it doesn't matter wherever he lives. He is carrying Vrindavan in his heart. And then he is dedicated his life to Krishna, and he has no material desire. So when he is chanting, then he is called as Vastugata. So
yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we'll stop here then.
Thank you, Prabhu.